Alright, let's cut to the chase. Imagine this. You're an Indian student, you've battled the odds, aced those soul-crushing exams, and finally landed that golden ticket and acceptance letter from Harvard University. Your parents are ecstatic, you're probably already practicing your Harvard accent, and your relatives have updated their Facebook statuses to proud family of a future Harvard grad. Then, bam! News breaks on May 23, 2025, your phone blows up, and the headline reads, Harvard University's SEVP certification revoked. Suddenly, that dream feels like it's been snatched away by a bureaucratic eagle. This isn't just a news story, folks. For hundreds of Indian students, this is a full-blown 5-alarm fire drill in the middle of their life's most important exam. The Student and Exchange Visitor Program, or SEVP, is basically the gatekeeper for international students wanting to study in the US. No SEVP certification means no international students, period. Harvard, the beacon of academic excellence, the place where literal presidents are made, suddenly can't legally host students from outside the United States. Think about the sheer chaos. Students mid-degree, students who've just packed their bags, students who've taken out massive loans, all thrown into a vortex of uncertainty. The shockwaves are being felt from Boston to Bangalore, from Mumbai to Massachusetts. We're talking about dreams, years of hard work, and a significant financial investment suddenly hanging precariously in the balance. This decision by the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, wasn't a gentle tap on the wrist. It was a sledgehammer to the very foundations of Harvard's global academic community. The implications are massive, not just for the students, but for Harvard's reputation, its finances, and for the broader landscape of international education in America. For Indian families, who often pour their life savings and aspirations into sending their children abroad for a world-class education, this is nothing short of a nightmare. The what-ifs are piling up faster than unread emails in a professor's inbox. What happens to their F1 visas? Where will they go? Can they even stay in the country? The timing couldn't be more dramatic. With the spring term literally ending next week, May 26, 2025, and a new cohort of bright-eyed students, including many from India, expecting to start their Harvard journey in fall 2025, the rug has been pulled out from under them with spectacular and frankly, terrifying efficiency. This isn't just about one university, it's a stark reminder of how quickly immigration policies can shift and how vulnerable international students can be. The Crimson Dream has, for now, turned into a crimson question mark, and everyone is scrambling for answers that are incredibly hard to find. So, why did the US government suddenly decide to drop this bombshell on Harvard of all places? According to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, this wasn't a random act of academic sabotage. The DHS laid out a buffet of serious accusations. They pointed to Harvard's alleged promotion of anti-Semitism, claiming the campus atmosphere had become unwelcoming, even unsafe for Jewish students. This is a heavy charge, one that strikes at the core of university values of inclusivity and safety. The feds weren't mincing words, suggesting that the university wasn't doing enough to combat these issues, letting them fester. But wait, there's more. The government also cited Harvard's supposed ties to China, a recurring theme in US political discourse these days. While the specifics of these ties weren't immediately detailed in the initial announcement, the implication is clear: concerns about foreign influence and national security. Add to that accusations of fostering sympathy for pro-Hamas views on campus, which, in the current geopolitical climate, is like throwing gasoline on a fire. The government essentially painted a picture of an institution that had lost its way, prioritizing certain ideologies over student safety and national interests, at least in their view. And then there's the ever-controversial topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI practices. Secretary Noem specifically mentioned racially biased DEI practices as another nail in Harvard's SEVP coffin. This suggests the administration believes Harvard's efforts to promote diversity might have crossed a line into discrimination, a truly ironic twist if proven true. It's a complex issue, and the government's stance here indicates a broader pushback against certain DEI initiatives that have become common in academia. It's like Harvard was being audited on its entire ethical and operational framework, and the DHS found it severely wanting. To add a ticking clock to this whole drama, Secretary Noem gave Harvard a ridiculously tight 72-hour deadline to comply with specific conditions to get its SEVP authorization back. What were these conditions? Oh, just little things like handing over records of disciplinary actions against international students and submitting audio and video recordings of campus protest activities. Harvard had apparently refused these requests before. So this wasn't just a sudden decision, it was an escalation, a power play. The message was clear. Comply, or your international student program is toast. This ultimatum turned an already tense situation into a full-blown crisis. Now, you didn't expect Harvard to just take this lying down, did you? The university, with its centuries of prestige and army of high-powered lawyers, immediately went on the offensive. Their response was swift and unambiguous. They called the Trump administration's decision illegal. That's right, Harvard isn't just saying we disagree, they're saying you broke the law by doing this. This sets the stage for a massive legal showdown, a clash of titans, the US government versus one of the world's most influential academic institutions. Popcorn, anyone? Harvard didn't stop at strong words. They filed a lawsuit against the administration. This isn't just about getting their SEVP certification back. It's about defending their autonomy, their reputation, and their ability to attract global talent. The university emphasized its commitment to its diverse student body, hailing from over 140 countries. They're working overtime trying to provide guidance and support to the thousands of international students suddenly caught in this bureaucratic crossfire. Imagine the internal meetings, the frantic calls, the scramble to reassure students whose worlds have just been turned upside down. The university's argument likely centers on due process, or the lack thereof. Did the government follow the proper procedures? Was the decision arbitrary and capricious? Harvard will argue that yanking SEVP certification, especially with such severe and immediate consequences for students, requires a much higher burden of proof and a more transparent process than what they believe occurred. They'll likely highlight their long history of welcoming international scholars and contributing to global knowledge, painting the government's actions as an overreach that harms not just Harvard, but American higher education as a whole. This legal battle will be closely watched by universities across the country, many of whom also rely heavily on international student enrollment. If the government can do this to Harvard, what's stopping them from targeting other institutions? The stakes are incredibly high. For the students, particularly those from India, this legal fight is their main glimmer of hope. They are anxiously waiting to see if the courts will intervene, perhaps issue an injunction to halt the revocation, and allow them to continue their studies. It's a race against time, with careers and futures hanging in the balance. Let's get down to brass tacks for the Indian students caught in this hurricane. We're talking about approximately 788 Indian students currently enrolled at Harvard across various programs. Annually, Harvard hosts between 500 and 800 brilliant minds from India. These aren't just numbers, these are individuals, each with a unique story, a dream, and a family back home who's invested everything. The immediate, terrifying reality for those with remaining coursework is this: transfer to another SEVP-certified institution, and do it fast, or risk losing your legal immigration status in the US. That's a monumental task under normal circumstances, let alone with this kind of pressure. The good news, if you can call it that, is for the class of 2025, those warriors who are literally graduating next week. They will still be allowed to graduate. Phew, right? A tiny silver lining. But for anyone else, especially those planning to begin their studies at Harvard in fall 2025, the door has been slammed shut, unless this decision is miraculously reversed, or legal eagles pull a rabbit out of a hat. Imagine getting your Harvard acceptance, booking your flights, maybe even finding an apartment in pricey Cambridge only to be told, sorry, program canceled. The emotional whiplash is unimaginable. One of the critical operational nightmares is that Harvard can no longer update or verify international student status in the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, or SEVIS. This system is the backbone of maintaining legal status for F1 visa holders. Without access to SEVIS, Harvard can't confirm their students are enrolled, attending classes, or making academic progress. This is a huge red flag for immigration authorities. The situation is even more urgent because Harvard's spring term ends on May 26, 2025. Normally, graduating students get a 60-day grace period to leave the US or change their status. But will that apply now? Nobody seems to know for sure. The uncertainty is crippling. Students need to find new universities, get accepted, transfer their credits, which is a whole other can of worms, and sort out their I-20 forms, all while their current visa status is in jeopardy. It's an academic, logistical, and emotional triathlon they never signed up for. And let's not forget the financial strain. Application fees for other universities, potential loss of scholarships tied to Harvard, the cost of possibly having to relocate. It all adds up. For many Indian families, this isn't just an inconvenience, it's a potential financial catastrophe on top of a shattered dream. Beyond the immediate visa scrambles and academic disruptions, there are deeper, often unseen casualties of this Harvard SEVP shock. Think about the immense financial burden suddenly thrust upon these students and their families. Many Indian families take out substantial educational loans, sometimes betting the family farm, literally, on the promise of a Harvard education and the subsequent career opportunities. Now they face the prospect of those loans becoming an anchor, with the promised return on investment vanishing into thin air. The stress of repaying these debts without the Harvard degree or the U.S. job prospects it might have facilitated is a crushing weight. Then there's the emotional and psychological toll. These students are thousands of miles away from home, in a foreign land, suddenly facing an existential threat to their academic careers and their very presence in the country. The anxiety, the fear, the sense of betrayal. It's a heavy cocktail to swallow. Many might have chosen Harvard not just for its academics, but for its holistic review process, which supposedly values thinking, motivations, personal growth, leadership, creativity, resourcefulness, and resilience. Ironically, they'll need all of those qualities now, just to navigate the fallout of this decision. It's a cruel test of the very attributes Harvard claimed to seek. Let's not forget the social upheaval. Friendships forged, research collaborations underway, a sense of belonging painstakingly built within the Harvard community. All of this is now under threat. Students might be forced to scatter to different universities, different cities, even different countries. The support networks they relied on could disintegrate. This isn't just about losing access to lectures and libraries, it's about losing a community. The feeling of isolation can be profound, especially when coupled with the shame or embarrassment some might feel about this situation. However unfair it is, it's a lonely battle for many. And what about the hidden facts and trends? Indian student enrollment at Harvard had seen a significant post-pandemic recovery, climbing from 513 in 2021 to 824 in 2023 to 24, before settling at 788 this year. This robust growth indicated a strong desire and trust in the institution. Now, this trust has been shaken. It's also worth noting that international students make up about 27% of Harvard's total student population, around 6,800 students, mostly in graduate studies. This decision doesn't just impact a few, it impacts a significant chunk of the university's intellectual and cultural fabric, and the precedent it sets is deeply concerning for all international scholars in the U.S. Now let's step into the ring and look at both sides of this heavyweight fight. The government, through the Department of Homeland Security and Secretary Kristi Noem, argues that this drastic measure was necessary. Their primary justification revolves around campus safety and national interest. They contend that Harvard failed to adequately address serious issues like anti-Semitism, creating an environment that was no longer safe or welcoming for all students. If these allegations are true, then the government would argue it has a responsibility to act, especially when federal funding and the well-being of students are involved. The DHS also pointed to concerns about Harvard's alleged ties to China and its DEI policies. From the government's perspective, these aren't just internal university matters. They have broader implications for national security and social cohesion. If they believe Harvard's practices are undermining American values or creating undue foreign influence, they might see revoking SEVP certification as a powerful tool to force compliance and send a message to other institutions. They would argue that universities, even prestigious ones like Harvard, are not above the law and must be held accountable for maintaining a safe and compliant environment conducive to learning, not activism. On the other side, Harvard and its supporters are crying foul, labeling the decision an unfair, politically motivated attack. They argue that the accusations are overblown, taken out of context, or are issues the university is actively addressing. Harvard would champion academic freedom and the importance of fostering a diverse and inclusive campus where difficult conversations can happen. They might suggest the government is using a sledgehammer to crack a nut, punishing thousands of innocent students for alleged institutional failings that should be handled through dialogue and less draconian measures. The claim of illegality suggests they believe the DHS overstepped its authority. Furthermore, Critics might see this as part of a broader trend of politicizing education and using international students as pawns in a larger political game. They would argue such actions damage America's reputation as a global leader in higher education and deter talented students from choosing the United States for their studies. The swiftness of the decision and the stringent 72-hour demand could be seen as evidence of a predetermined outcome rather than a genuine attempt to resolve issues. For many, this looks less like a justified crackdown and more like an unprecedented and punitive overreach against a globally respected university. This Harvard SEVP saga isn't just an isolated incident affecting a few hundred students. It taps into something much larger, the quintessential Indian dream of foreign education and global success. For generations, families in India have viewed a degree from a top Western university, especially an Ivy League institution like Harvard, as the ultimate passport to a brighter future. It's a dream built on sacrifice, relentless hard work, and the hope of providing the next generation with opportunities they themselves might not have had. This dream involves not just academic achievement but also personal growth, exposure to new cultures, and the chance to build a globally competitive career. The current crisis throws a harsh spotlight on the vulnerabilities inherent in chasing this dream. It shows how quickly geopolitical winds can shift, how administrative decisions made thousands of miles away can upend carefully laid plans. The emotional investment is immense. Imagine the years of coaching classes, the late-night study sessions, the parental pep talks, all culminating in that Harvard acceptance only to have it threatened by issues like alleged anti-Semitism or DEI policy disputes on campus, things completely outside an individual student's control. It's a brutal lesson in how interconnected and sometimes precarious our globalized world can be for aspiring individuals. This situation forces a difficult conversation about the risks versus rewards. While the allure of a foreign degree remains strong, incidents like these compel students and families to consider backup plans more seriously, to perhaps explore opportunities in other countries, or even to reevaluate the strengths of domestic institutions. It's a reminder that while aiming high is commendable, being prepared for unforeseen turbulence is crucial. The personal growth aspect of studying abroad often includes developing resilience, and boy, are these students getting a crash course in it right now. The future they envisioned might need some serious rescripting. The impact extends to the idea of building a future. Many Indian students go to the United States not just for a degree, but with hopes of potentially working there for a few years, gaining international experience, and perhaps even settling down. This SEVP revocation, even if temporary or eventually overturned, creates a climate of uncertainty that can deter future aspirants. It highlights the fragility of visa statuses and the ever-present possibility of policy changes. Families might now think twice, weighing the prestige against the potential instability, forcing a re-evaluation of what building a future truly means in such a dynamic global landscape. When a seismic shock like the Harvard SEVP revocation hits, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, lost, and even defeated. The dreams that seem so solid can suddenly feel like they're built on quicksand. But here's the thing about adversity. It's often the greatest catalyst for discovering inner strength and forging new paths. For the Indian students impacted, and for anyone facing a major setback, this is a moment that calls for profound resilience. It's about acknowledging the pain and frustration, yes, but then pivoting, adapting, and finding a way forward, even when the path is completely obscured by fog. Students and families need to mobilize, seek accurate information, and explore all available options. This means contacting Harvard's International Student Office relentlessly, consulting with immigration lawyers, and proactively researching other SEVP-certified universities that might accept transfers. It's about transforming panic into a plan of action. This might involve making tough choices, perhaps attending a university that wasn't their first choice, or even deferring their U.S. education plans for a while. The key is to regain a sense of agency, to actively shape their response rather than being passively swept away by the crisis. This situation also underscores the critical importance of financial preparedness and having contingency plans. Relying solely on one institution or one visa pathway can be risky, as we've starkly seen. This is where broader financial literacy and strategic planning come into play. It's not just about having funds for tuition, it's about having a safety net, understanding investment diversification, and perhaps even exploring income streams that aren't tied to a specific geographic location or employment visa. Thinking long-term about financial stability can provide a buffer against such unexpected shocks. offering more choices when Plan A goes up in smoke. Ultimately, a degree from a prestigious institution is a means to an end, not the end itself. The personal growth, the critical thinking skills, the adaptability learned through navigating such a crisis, these are invaluable assets that no university revocation can take away. This experience, however challenging, can forge individuals who are more resourceful, more resilient, and perhaps even more determined to succeed. It's a harsh lesson, but it can also be a powerful crucible for character development, pushing students to redefine success on their own terms and build a future that is robust and adaptable, regardless of what life throws their way. This entire Harvard episode, with its sudden twists and turns, serves as a powerful, if painful, reminder. True security and lasting legacy are rarely found in things that can be taken away by a policy change or an institutional crisis. While education is undeniably crucial, the foundation upon which you build your life and your family's future needs to be rock solid. This is where the philosophy of ancestry lands comes into sharp focus. We believe in empowering individuals and families to build generational wealth and a lasting heritage, primarily through the tangible, enduring value of land ownership and astute financial awareness. When your academic plans are disrupted, when visa statuses become uncertain, when the path you meticulously planned suddenly vanishes, what remains? Your resourcefulness, your resilience, and the tangible assets you control. Owning land, for instance, isn't just about possessing a piece of earth. It's about creating a cornerstone for your family's future, an asset that can appreciate, provide stability, and be passed down through generations. It's about diversifying your life's portfolio beyond degrees and job titles into something real, something that endures market fluctuations and policy shifts with greater stoicism. Ancestry Lands is dedicated to guiding you on this journey. We provide insights, resources, and opportunities to help you understand the power of land as an investment and a legacy tool. We champion financial literacy, helping you make informed decisions that contribute to long-term wealth creation. In times of uncertainty, like what these Harvard students are facing, the importance of having a diversified strategy for your future becomes crystal clear. It's about not having all your eggs in one basket, especially when that basket can be yanked away without warning. It's about building your own fortress of financial security. The dream of a Harvard education is powerful, but the dream of a secure, prosperous future for your family, built on a foundation you own and control, is even more profound. Don't let external circumstances dictate your destiny. Take control. Learn how to build a legacy that transcends temporary setbacks. We invite you to join the Ancestry Lands community. Subscribe to our newsletter, follow our channels, and engage with our content. Let us equip you with the knowledge and tools to build not just a career, but generational wealth and a lasting heritage. Your future is too important to leave to chance.